Well, let's start with today's big news. The big news is that the Chief of Army Staff, Field Marshal Asim Munir, is having lunch with US President Donald Trump tomorrow at the White House Cabinet Room. That is a very big development by any standard on conflict. Apparently, other senior officials from both sides will also be attending this meeting. The likely participants include likely, I'm using the word very carefully because it's still not confirmed, but the likely participants would include SI Chief, the Director General Military Operations, and the Pakistani ambassador besides the Army Chief. Since it is in the cabinet room, it is very likely that some senior members of Trump cabinet also participate. So one likely participant could be Secretary of State Marco Rubio, because he's also the National Security Advisor. Any security-related meeting, the NSA is always present. This obviously will be seen in the backdrop of India-Pakistan conflict, the war that happened last month, and how Pakistan handled it, and the way we responded has actually raised Pakistan's image across the globe, and particularly in Washington. I remember I was discussing this just earlier this week with a former U.S. diplomat, and he said that no matter what Pakistan did, but they did act promptly, and they did show that they can match India. And they did match India. They forced India come to actually ceasefire. Then, of course, the diplomat also confirmed, he's retired now, so he can discuss this. He said his source told him that it indeed was President Trump who got involved in the whole thing and arranged a ceasefire. Now, that obviously contradicts India's all claims. I mean, first of all, the Indians were saying that the Americans were not involved at all, that Pakistan accepted. Actually, it was India was acting on Pakistan's request. Now, the army chief who's there, he told a gathering yesterday that it was not Pakistan, but it was India who made the first request, and then the Americans contacted him. And because he's contacted Pakistan, and because Pakistan never wanted this war, it did not start this war, did not initiate this war, so Pakistan quickly responded and said, yes, we are ready to talk. So they sat down and discussed and arranged this ceasefire. If you remember, earlier this month, an Indian and Pakistan delegations visited Washington to meet U.S. officials and U.S. lawmakers, actually explain their positions on the India-Pakistan conflict to them. While both sides had meetings on the Hill, which is the U.S. Congress, and meetings at the State Department and at other places, at the Pentagon and other places, I think the Indian had an upper hand because they were able to meet the U.S. Vice President, while the Pakistani delegation could not. And that is mainly because the wife of the U.S. Vice President, Jerry Vance, is an Indian. And she must have been instrumental in arranging that meeting. And since Pakistan did not have such a connection, so it could not meet the vice president. But now this meeting obviously is much more serious. I mean, as you know, in the U.S. system, is the president who takes all major decisions, and not the vice president. And Trump is also is a very powerful man, and sometimes he takes decisions that do not align with the advice from his subordinates. Any meeting with Trump is very significant. It could go either way. I mean, it could go in Pakistan's favor. It may not go in Pakistan's favor. I'm not saying that he is going to do a big favor to Pakistan, but meeting itself is a big favor. I think in the ongoing diplomatic war between India and Pakistan, this is a major win for Islamabad. As far as the strategic objectives of the Army Chief's visit are concerned, I think focus will be on the India-Pakistan conflict. You know that our entire defense is India-centric. We do not have problem with any other country. I mean, yes, Afghanistan is a different case. Every country has some problem with Afghanistan and some friendship with Afghanistan too. And we were very close to it once. We are now having some problem, but we still maintain some relations with Afghanistan. With Iran, our relations have always been cordial, except one or two hiccups. I think our main adversary in the region has been India, and it still remains India. So obviously, the focus of his talks in Washington will be the India-Pakistan conflict. Pakistan wants to use this opportunity that the Indian aggression is open for it to discuss larger issues. Like you see, there was no discussion in Washington or any other world capitals on Kashmir for almost 20 years, except like once when India merged the occupied Kashmir with the Union in 2019. But that was also very brief. But this act of aggression has made the world realize Kashmir indeed is a nuclear flashpoint, as Pakistan says it is, because during this brief war, both India and Pakistan came very close to a nuclear conflict. I mean, it could have happened any moment, and that is why Washington and other world capitals reacted so forcefully and stopped this war. So once people understand this thing, that it indeed is a nuclear flashpoint, then obviously they will also be interested in wanting to settle it. And I think the way President Trump has spoken about Kashmir like at least a dozen times, he's started again. So it shows that he too understands the seriousness of this issue and wants to help resolve it. The other issues, obviously, the war in Iran is something that also impacts Pakistan. We have borders with Iran, we have old relations with Iran, there are people in Pakistan who sympathize with Iran, there are people in Iran who have contacts with people in Pakistan, and therefore anything that happens in Iran is going to impact Pakistan as well. That would be discussed. And then, as the army chief himself indicated, reception yesterday, they will also discuss bilateral relations, particularly trade, U.S. interest in Pakistani mineral deposits in Pakistan, Pakistan interest in persuading American investors to invest in Pakistan. Those things will be discussed, and of course the defense to defense. I mean, the contact between this defense establishments, these two countries. The defense establishments work with each other. They have been working with each other for decades. They have had very close coordination during the Cold War, in the war against the Soviets in Afghanistan, the war against terrorism in Afghanistan and in the region. Both the United States and Pakistan wants to maintain this relationship. Obviously, we're not going to see the type of relations we had during the one war, but I think Washington does want to maintain good, friendly relationship with Pakistan. While in his interaction with the Pakistani American community yesterday, the army chief said that what people in Pakistan call a brain drain, that is, educated and skilled Pakistan is going abroad for jobs. He said that was some people see it as a brain drain, but for him, it is not a brain drain, it is a brain gain. Educated Pakistan is going abroad, give a good name to Pakistan because they go and they teach at universities. There are thousands of Pakistani physicians, doctors here. There are thousands of Pakistani engineers and software engineers here. So he said, and they have obviously sent remittances that plays a vital role in the Pakistani economy. So he said, we understand the important role that these overseas Pakistanis play, and that they want to maintain close relations with the community. They want to stay engaged with the community, and whatever differences there may be, and it does happen. But he said that Pakistani embassies and Pakistani officials will be working with the community to actually remove those differences and to facilitate their interest in Pakistan. Many of them want to buy or build houses in Pakistan. Many want to invest in Pakistan and do business, and he encouraged them to do business, and he promised to make it easier for them to do so. Some people came with personal complaints, and while responding to them, he said that if you have problems, come and work with the Fauji Foundation. You will get a very clean and dependable relationship there, and they will help you invest and do business in Pakistan. One thing that we need to understand, India is a very large country. India has a very large economy. India has a very large diaspora, particularly in the United States. So obviously, we cannot and we should not compare ourselves with India. The US has different interests in India. The United States sees India as a counterbalance to China's growing influence in the world, and particularly in our region. And it wants to work with India to counter China or to counter Chinese influence. But it also realizes, at least now, that Pakistan too has a role in that region, and that Pakistan too is an important country, and that it should maintain its ties with Pakistan as well. So it will be a difficult balancing act, but we have to learn to do it, and we have to work in a way that we keep good relations with the United States without actually putting the United States in a position where it has to choose between India and Pakistan, because good place to be. I mean, Pakistan, as we say, should be on its own because it is an important country. And I think for the first time after many years, the Americans willing to deal with Pakistan as Pakistan, not as a country that has influence in Afghanistan, or not as a country that they need to counterbalance India or what to protect their interests in Iran, but they have started to see Pakistan as important on itself. And I think we should also understand this and work with them on this.